But the thing I like about doing this is I get to find out so many different things about guys that I know that I didn't know. Hell,
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know your name was Lorenzo.
You did? Now, a lot of people didn't, Jack. A lot of
And
people
I
didn't.
was like, we just call him Levon. What the hell is he about? Levon or Kirkland? That was it.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah,
then,
Lorenzo.
so you didn't like Lorenzo. That's just like my wife. Her name is Katrina. She likes to be called Tina, but you
Yeah.
just use
No.
your middle name.
Yeah. People just never called me Lorenzo. They just never did. I mean, my family didn't call me that. They just called me Levon. And they just never used Lorenzo. I don't know why they didn't use Lorenzo. They just never did.
I mean, were your mom
So,
and dad pissed off? Like we named you Lorenzo, and they want to call you Levon. What the?
no, I'm gonna tell you the truth about it, Jack. This is what really happened. Interesting story. I was born in the year I was born. There was a really bad ice storm in South Carolina, in the region we were in. So actually, my parents took me home. Like I was 10 pounds, like 14 ounces when I was born. My parents, the doctor was like, if you got heat or whatever at your house, you can take them home. And I think when my mother told the nurse the name, she got it wrong. She put Lorenzo instead of what my name's supposed to be. Right. So it never was supposed to be Lorenzo. It was supposed to be something else. And so they never used the name Lorenzo because it wasn't supposed to be my name. But back in the day, my parents did not want to get it changed, and they were not going to spend any more money than they absolutely had to.
So they just said, "Hell, we're going to go with this."
And changing my name wasn't that important, so they just went with Lorenzo. Okay. So that's why nobody ever called me Lorenzo, and so I even tried to use it once I got to the league, but they were just like, "Nobody knows you as Lorenzo, so we're just going to keep calling you Levon." I'm like, "Okay, sounds good to me."
So let's get started on this. Like I said, I got to do the introduction for the podcast, and then we'll do your introduction. So that'll be a good story too. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome to episode 16 of the Offline Podcast. I'm your host, John Jackson. Hey, show us some love by hitting that like button. But we want you to subscribe to our podcast and join our team. So hit that alert button so you know when the podcasts are coming out. Hey, we welcome comments and questions. So go to theofflinepodcast.com. Today, I'm in Cincinnati, and it looks miserable. But I got a really special guest. This is another guy we used to do a lot of headbanging in practice, and very special guy. He was actually he started out as my scout team guy, but then he kind of elevated itself. He went to Clemson. He was drafted in 1992, second round pick, and pick number 38. He spent 9 years with the Steelers, one with Seattle, one with the Eagles. He was a two-time Pro Bowler, two-time All-Pro. He was the NFL Alumni Linebacker of the Year in 97. He was two-time Pittsburgh Steelers team MVP, 98, 99. And he made the NFL 90s All-Decade team. He did a little coaching. Coached at Florida A&M, and he coached at the Arizona Cardinals. But let's go back to his college days. He was the 9th person at Clemson to go in the Ring of Honor. He's made the Clemson Athletic Hall of Fame, and he's made the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. And I want to bring to the podcast Lorenzo Levon Kirkland.
What's up, Jack? How you doing,
Nothing,
man?
But I had to put that Lorenzo in there because I didn't want to call you out your name. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew, but we just call you Levon. So
right. It was either Kirk or Big Kirk or something like that. Nobody ever used Lorenzo. No, I imagine nobody ever knew my name was Lorenzo. So
right. So I used to hate that big shit. And when people call me Big John, I'm like, dude, just call me John. Don't call me big. I already know I'm big. I get that part.
I felt the same way, but I mean, I guess at my position, I was such a big guy that everybody just called me Big Kirk. But even before that, when I was in high school, I was called Big Kirk or Captain Kirk, and it kind of in college it was the same thing, Kirk Doll, Kirk Fan, Captain Kirk, Big Kirk. The name Kirkland just really it gives off to a lot of nicknames. So I just had to deal with it,
Right. Hey, so tell me about you get drafted by the Steelers in '92, and that was actually Bill Cowher's first year in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me your expectations about being drafted to the Steelers, especially we had a pretty good defense. I mean, those guys were they used to bang the crap out of each other.
Yeah. When I first got there, I was amazed at how great everybody was in my eyes. I just thought that, you guys on the offensive line, the defense was amazing. And I really had to think like, man, when am I going to be able to play? These guys are good. We had Hardy Nickerson, David Little, Gerald Williams. It was kind of, Jerry Oslowski. So we had some good players. Brian Hinkle was on that team also. The defense was good, but I knew I brought something to the table, and I knew I'll be able to contribute in some kind of way, maybe be special teams. And also, I don't know if you knew this, Jack, but I never played that position until I got to Pittsburgh. I never played the inside linebacker position. I
because you're mostly down, right? You were down.
Yeah, I was either down or outside. So we kind of, on first and second, I was an outside backer, but on third down, I converted to being a defensive end. So
I would have loved to see your hand down over me.
Man, I hate going against you, Jack. Man, you're just so freaking strong, man. But I learned so much going, being on the scout team wasn't a bad deal for me. I actually learned a lot from you guys. You in touch and, playing something with Damani in there. I actually learned a lot. Hasselred, you guys have a really good offensive line. And, but I'm going to tell you, when I did meet Bill Cowher before the draft, he had me in the office. And, being young, I really wanted to play for Pittsburgh. I was hoping that I got drafted with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I felt like he was going to be a very good coach, and I felt like my style would kind of fit his style a little bit. And then when I got there, there's a bunch of grown men, and I'm like, and you guys
it was a little different when you walked in there, wasn't it?
It was a lot different, and you guys didn't. It was just like, and which I like about when I first got there, you had to earn your respect to even be spoken to. You guys didn't even speak to the rookies back then. You barely spoke. Not saying you wasn't nice guys or friendly guys. It was just the way it was. You had to earn your respect. And if you didn't earn your respect, because, guys could sniff you out. Like players.
Well, we knew who wasn't going to make it and who wasn't going to make it.
You guys
did.
I
tell people.
You guys did. You knew who was going to be. You guys kind of knew from the start who was going to be good and who was just a waste of time. So, in those days, you had to really earn your respect. And I like that because, no matter what the coaches say or the front office, it was the players. It's
about the players. It's always about the players.
You had to get their respect first and foremost.
And
but
you know what? But you know what I loved about you? I remember your first year, and you played special teams in the scout team. I always knew one thing. If I saw you out there as a linebacker, I better get to that spot before you got there, or you were just going to blow it up. And I'm like, I'm not going to be late on this. I was like, okay, it's time to be punctual.
Right.
So make sure you're at that spot.
Right.
And that's what I loved about you, because you hit people. And that's how you earn your respect, especially on defense. A lot of people, especially when you first come in, they're a little tentative. Me and Damani was like, hey, Levon's over there, so you better get there. You better get where you got to get to.
Yeah.
Or he's just going to blow it up. Yeah.
Yeah. I like hitting, man, but like I said, I think people didn't really understand how good we were, where you guys were. You guys were so good, man. And as a rookie, I just wanted to make sure I did my part and to make sure that when it was time for me to step up, I was able to step up, because you also talk about the lineages of the linebackers at Pittsburgh. I mean, you talking about Jack Ham, Jack Hambert, And then, I mean, Merriweather. There were so many good linebackers. David Little, that was there that played before me. And I just really wanted to be on that level. I did. And when I got the opportunity to start, man, I just really tried to capitalize it because, that's when Kevin came in. And you had guys like Rod Woodson on the team. You had Greg Lloyd. And I'm telling you, if you did not play up to their standard, they would just call you out. I don't know if players can take it, what we had to go through, and you as well. Like, the other players took so much ownership being on the field that if you didn't add up or you didn't fit in, man, they would just let you know. It wasn't the coaches. It was really, you just wanted to earn the players' respect. And that's what I try to do, man. And it's a position that I had to kind of grow into. But I thought I did a really good job of growing into it and being a good player. But I also thought I was unique in a lot of ways because of my size. I still can move pretty well. And I was really good at covering guys. And
that's what I remember you covering guys. Me and Damani would be amazed. It was like, dude, and he can actually run. Like, dude, he can run. Like, as big as you are, we're like, you can actually run. Because that was the whole thing on me. Everybody was like, you can run. I'm like, yeah, I can run.
Oh my God.
Because
you were so good. Oh my God, you were so good.
People used to like trip out when I started running. I never forget. I used to love when we had like an interception because I knew I could hit somebody, and I would always try to make that tackle because I was like, that's the only defense I'm playing. I ain't playing no more defense because defense they run too much, and I was like, I'm not going there. I am not going to play defense.
Defense is so much energy, man. That's why. I don't know if you knew, but our whole thing was to get off the field. It was like, hey, three plays and out. That was our whole thing, 3 plays and out. Because we understood, man, when teams get that drive on you, man, it really takes a lot out of the defense because defense is such a, you're trying to be proactive, but you kind of have to be a lot of reactive too because you don't really know what. I mean, teams have schemes and they have tendencies, but I always felt like I had to react to what was going on in the now.
Right.
And I was never a guy who tried to, they're going to run this because you could run something else. So I always kind of played the play. I mean, there's sometimes you had a beat on what they were doing. But luckily for us, we had a defense that was very proactive and Coach LeBeau and Coach Capers really blitz a great deal, and it was a lot of fun playing on that defense. It really was. But I hated going against you. Oh my God, I hate it. But you and Damani love going against me now.
Yes,
I don't know what it was. I'm like, Damani would go on would be on the scout team sometimes. And when I used to go against you, when I was on the scout team, I used to hate it. But you guys be like, I just love hitting you. You guys both would tell me, I just love hitting. I'm like, but why? Can you explain to me why you guys like hitting me so much?
Well, because we felt like you were always one of us. You were close to being one of us. We figured if you put on another 20 pounds, you would be one of us.
Oh, no question. No question.
You would be one of us. But we just liked the way you played, and it always got us ready during the week.
Right.
Because we knew it was like, okay, if we're playing against a really good linebacker that week, okay, Levon's in there. And we would always say, hey, we would always kind of put you in that position. And it kind of really got us charged up for the week. It was like, you know what? We can block him. He's young, he's fast, and he doesn't know how good he is yet. But we always like blocking you because you know what? You always brought it. And that was a sign of respect to us that, you would always bring it. That's why we always had to have our A game in practice. At least I had to have my A game as far as holding. Yeah.
So was it because I always was whoever the best linebacker on that team, they would always say, hey, Kirkland, put this on.
That's why.
Why am I putting this on? But yeah, I kind of got it after a while, man. So, but I always respected you guys. I went hard, But you know how some guys are. They're practice all practice all
All
pro.
Americans. Well,
Yeah,
you remember Oliver Gibson?
I remember OG. Yeah,
Yeah, he was, to me, he was like an all pro scout team guy.
right.
Into that one day that I had a meltdown
Yeah,
and went off on him. But I just didn't understand it. I mean, I understand about, you giving a look, and that's what you did. You gave a look, but when you start making tackles, it's like, dude, you're not gonna be playing this week. I
yeah,
mean, just like Kara would always say, you know what, we're not playing the Steelers this week, so it's really not gonna matter.
right.
But I know that one day I got in trouble for. I told OG, I said, listen, I ain't got nothing for you today, because we had went through, I think we did 145 plays.
Right.
And it was something ridiculous, because I know we had to watch that, and it was 3 hours.
Right.
Going through all the stuff. And the next day I was like, we got the day off, and I still was not feeling it Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And then Thursday I was like, you know what? I'll have something for you tomorrow, but I got nothing for you today. So just hit and be done. But no, he was just like balls to walls.
Yeah.
And
well, that's what I always understood. I always I'm gonna give you a good look, mm-hmm. but I'm gonna let you block me and carry out your assignment. But I'm gonna give you, what you're gonna see. But I wasn't gonna be a jerk about it. I wasn't gonna show you. I understood not to ever show anybody up.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, and like I said, that's what I love about coming in the time I came in, because you really kind of had to earn your respect. But you guys didn't want us to be soft, but you also hey, you just played a game on Sunday. I barely played. I got more energy. So I'm going to give you a good look, but also, I'm going to let you block me too. Which you guys could do anyway, but I always say, give them a good look, be fast off it, but chill out. I used to hate guys like that. We're all professionals. There's no reason to try to show up a guy.
Right. I mean, especially in practice and during the season. And, especially if the guy played, in the game, and the guy didn't play in the game. I'm like, of course you should be fresh. Hell, you're a fucking Twinkie.
Right.
You've been sitting on the sidelines, but we've been playing in the game, and you get a little dinged up. But that's one of those things where, you'll tell a guy that, and he still won't get it. He still won't get it. So tell me about your biggest payday in NFL. How'd you feel?
Right. Oh man, it was amazing.
I'll tell you how I feel. I'll tell you how I felt. I felt pretty good, but I left Pittsburgh, and I was like, I went through some seasons that, whew,
yeah,
God, a little different.
Yeah, you know what, man? It was great for me, because I felt like I did earn it.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and there was a sense of pride, because they kept, doing my option. And I felt like, okay, I really mean something to this team. And I had to play, probably on any other team, I would have been the guy on defense earlier, but the cool thing was I was surrounded by a lot of great players. I mean,
right.
Our defense was really stacked, and it was cool to be a part of that. And although I wasn't like some guys are instant stars or whatever they are, I wasn't an instant star, but I did have the respect of my teammates. And I think I had a respect of, other people in the league. But it took a while for me to really get to that Pro Bowl level. And, I remember the first time I made a Pro Bowl, man, and it was amazing because my teammates were so happy for me. And then after the next year, made it again. And then after that, got the big contract. So I was really proud of the fact that I could do that. But mostly I was elated that I could help my family out and be a good brother and be a good son and, be an example. that was a cool thing about it. And the money definitely wasn't bad, but I think I just remember one time though. I think it was you who told me this. We lost a game or something like that, and I think I was kind of upset about us losing the game. And you're like, "It's okay, Rook. We get paid on Monday." I was like, "That is true. That is true." And it's
because
another thing
you always got to be positive, though. You always got to be even doing a negative.
Oh, but I don't know if you remember this, but it was the first. It was my rookie year. It was the first day of cut day. You know, it was final cuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Huey Richardson getting let go that year.
Yeah, he was a number one pick.
He was number one pick, and you looked at me. He's like, "You see why we don't really talk to you guys at first?" And I'm like, "I get it. I get it. It's a business. I get it now, because a lot of times when you're young and you come in, you don't know that, man. Hey, dude, you may not be on this team. You got to earn your spot to be on this team. And after a while, it doesn't really, because you always have that rumor. You always have that rumor or that myth that if you're a first round pick, you're gonna be there.
Mm-mm.
He got cut the second year, man.
Yeah.
And that woke me up like, dude, you gotta do this every single day. You gotta prove your point. And that's what you told me. I don't know if you remember, but we were in the little weight room we had, and you like, that's why we don't really talk to you guys. And I'm like, got it. So I gotta bring it every day. So yeah, man. But no, it was amazing. It was an amazing feeling to be able to take care of your family for the rest. So, yeah, it was amazing. I'm a small town kid from South Carolina, and, we've never seen money like that. And to be able to dream that big and to make it that far was amazing for me.
Right. So what, so you play in Pittsburgh, and then how did it feel to go to another team? I mean, you go to Seattle. I know when I went to San Diego, it was like I was happy to be there, but then I missed all the guys that I've been there for 10 years, but I missed everybody. And how did it feel when you went to Seattle?
I'm gonna tell you, Jack, it was the same way for me too. I was happy that I got another opportunity to play the game and really to be valued and wanted. But it was different. It really was. God, you know how it is. But when I try to explain to people, we were a very close knit team. But the one thing, man, is that we were always, we had this pride about us. I don't know if it was a Steeler thing or what it was, but everybody took ownership of playing on that team.
Yeah.
And when you're on a good team, man, you miss when you go to a team that's not as good. You take a lot of things for granted. You take you for granted. Really, you think that everybody is going to approach the game like a professional. They don't.
They don't.
They don't.
Because think about this. This is that mentality that the Steelers have, and then it's ingrained in you. But then when you go somewhere else, it's not, and you wonder what the hell are you guys doing? You're not gonna win.
Right. You're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, when I was at Seattle, man, I think there were guys who were scared to play. And they weren't as physical, because we were like a physical team. Like, if you played the Pittsburgh Steelers back in that day, you're going to be in a tremendous fight. And most likely you're going to lose that fight, because we brought it for 60 minutes. We actually had shirts that said 60 minutes at one point in time. But yeah, we were so physical.
I remember those shirts. I remember Ray Seals.
Ray Seals, man.
So Ray Seals, and this is a funny story too. Ray Seals didn't come up with that slogan.
No, he did not. Yeah. You know who came up with that slogan, right?
Who was that?
It was Brinston and me.
Yeah. And you guys never got paid for it.
No, we never got paid. But because
you got a few shirts. You got a few shirts, but that was about it.
But to his, I like Ray hustle on that. I mean, Ray was a hustler, you know what I'm saying? And we were, I guess, it was a year before we went to the Super Bowl, and I thought that was the best team we had. And I just remember me and Princeton, because we went to Clemson together, we used to just talk it up when we were warming up. We'd just be talking it up, and we were just, we were big wrestling fans, and we loved Ric Flair. And Ric Flair had this thing where he was saying he was a 60-minute man to, all the women out there that he can go for 60 minutes.
Right.
And so it just kind of related. And we will always say we're 60-minute men. I think Ray kind of heard that, and the wheels started turning. And the next thing you know, this guy got 60-minute men shirt. And I'm telling you, if we would have went to the Super Bowl, he would have made a killing on those shirts. I mean, those shirts were
and the posters too. Remember the posters we had on the offense and defense? Oh,
right.
I was looking in my basement, and I've got a couple of those posters and T-shirts, and I was like, look at this.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
It was I'm telling you, man, it was such a fun team. So when, you go to other teams, especially I went to Seattle, man, you know how, like, we were so loose. I thought we were a loose team before like in the locker room, we're a loose team. And I always felt that the reason why we were loose because we knew we put in the work in practice. The game was just the game. It was just, the game was going to be fun. We're going to have fun. But before the game, man, we were loose. When I went to Seattle, man, those guys were so tight. Oh my God.
And you could see it. You could see them being tight or nervous, as you would call it. But it's like, okay, if we had a good week of practice, how come we just can't take it and put it on the field? And that's what I understand. I thought when I was in San Diego, we had a good week of practice, but I would still see guys like tense up like this. And I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? Let's go have some fun.
Yeah, let's go play.
Yeah.
I tell people this story all the time. I would say, like, our practices, they were good practices and tough practices. But, man, when you guys were doing your thing, you would see the defense all over the place. Like, guys would be sitting on whatever, not really kind of like paying attention to the offense. They would be all over. But when they called us up, man, we would gather, we would go out, and we would do our thing. I think it was the same with the offense. Like, if we were out there practicing, you guys were just whatever. Most teams, they're not like that. Most teams, they're like, everybody got to be in one spot. You got to have your helmet off. And I thought that was the maturity of our team also, that, we knew as long as we did our thing in practice and we were focused when we were out there, it was no reason for us to pay attention to what you guys were doing, unless you wanted to pay attention. So, yeah, so I went to Seattle, man. Guys were so tight, and I was one of the guys like, listen, man, we've done what we had to do through the week. I said, the game is to be enjoyed, to be played. But, we just had guys who were not used to winning. They didn't know how to win. And so when they got into a stressful situation, I always felt like good teams, they always understand this. They always understand that we're going to win this game some kind of way. We'll find a way to win. If we're down by 14 or whatever, we had confidence that we're going to win. Right. Losing teams, they're front runners.
Yeah.
They are front runners. So things have to go so well for them early in the game for them to really finish the game. Right. Great teams, it doesn't have to be that way. They understand the ebb and flow of the game, and they know how, okay, we made a mistake, no big deal. We'll come back and we'll get it. And at the end of the game, we'll have an opportunity to win. Yeah. And I felt like that's how we were. And, yeah, I really enjoyed those Pittsburgh teams, man. We were so good. And maybe if we would have stayed together a little longer, we probably would have won one, I imagine. But, yeah, it was different on other teams. It really was. I mean, it seemed tighter, And one of the things.
It was tighter. I mean, but yeah. I think that on those other teams, the thing that I noticed about we really didn't hang out like we hung out when I was in Pittsburgh. I mean, those guys, you say, hey, let's go out and have a drink. Everybody like, nah, I got something else to do. Like, what? Let's go out and have one drink. I'm not asking you to buy me a dinner. I'm just asking you, let's go out and have a drink. I'll pay for my own drink.
Right, man. It was such a separation, man. Guys just, when I was at Seattle, it was really hard to get guys to kind of buy in the whole team aspect. You had guys who were really, it was basically about them and the plays they made, not so much what the team was going to do. And I tell people, man, on that team we had at Pittsburgh, man, we had some freaking stars on that defense, dude. I mean,
Oh yeah,
we really did. I mean, I even look at the linebacker aspect of it. You're looking at Kevin Green, Greg Lloyd, who should be mentioned for the Hall of Fame. We had a young guy in Chad Brown, who was an amazing player, and myself. And dude, we never complained about the plays that, we would sacrifice each other for other guys
right.
to make plays. And a lot of teams, instead of that guy spilling the block or squeezing the block, he's trying to make the play, which means now the offensive lineman could climb up on me, and
Right.
also, even when I was coaching, guys, I think we were just such good. I think we were so savvy. People ask the difference. And I always say this, Jack, that, okay, maybe guys are well trained, they're stronger, maybe faster, whatever, but they didn't understand the game together. Like, I would tell Greg and them, do whatever you want to do, I'll play off you.
Right.
Because I'm behind, I'll play off you. And vice versa. The reason I was able to cover a lot of those tight ends, because Greg and Kevin did such a good job of jamming those guys that, even if we did bite up on the play action, we had time enough because they jammed those guys so good that we can make the play. So it was like, hey, if you do this, don't worry about it. I cover you.
Right.
Today's game, man, guys don't really mesh like that. And I'm
I
not
get
sure.
that.
I'm sure you guys did the same thing with the offensive line. If this happened and I don't get my assignment, dude, just take up for me.
Right. Well, it's called the pizza theory. Okay, I got your piece, you take my piece, and that's how you cover for each other. But you see today's guys, and then it's almost like they're selfish.
Right.
To me, they look selfish. They look the guy like, what? I got my guy. Where's your guy? Like, no, that don't work like that. Especially when the
Right.
quarterback's getting the shit kicked out of him.
Yes.
That's always the crazy thing.
Oh, and I coached on that level. I coached with the Cardinals, and I'm telling you, man, guys were like, they did not really take up for each other. And the Cardinals had a pretty good team that year. But I remember on one of the biggest interceptions that I ever had against Buffalo. You were still on the team. And the guy runs downfield. Chad is supposed to be Chad's guy.
Right.
Chad doesn't cover him. In today's football, that guy would have scored a touchdown.
Right.
I saw that Chad didn't cover him. I hustled down to cover that guy, and I ended up making an interception. And that's just, hey, man, I got your back.
Exactly.
So, you're supposed to do this. I know you're supposed to do this. You didn't do it. Shoot, I'll cover you. Or there have been instances when we used to run that little cross dog blitz inside with
I remember that.
over the center. Remember that play? I mean, it was one of our better plays. And I will always go first to knock the center off, and Chad would come behind me. And Chad would make a lot of plays that way.
Yeah.
And I remember Chad telling me, like, hey, Kirk, you ever, hey, let's switch it up sometime. Let me go first. I'm like, nah, Chad. I'm the more physical guy. I know that you're going to be able to clean up better than I would clean up.
Right.
And so make that make that sack, dude. I don't care. As long as we make the sack, that's the main thing. So I'll take that guy on. I'm going to tell you, Jack, it's not like that anymore. It really isn't.
And that's a shame. Yeah.
Yeah, and guys don't really take up for each other. Like, they'll just be like, well, he's supposed to be here or he's supposed to be there. Like, man, dude, make up for it.
Right. And instead of saying, you know what, it's on me. It's my fault. Well, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. Won't happen again. They don't get that. Hey, can you hold on for 1 second? I got to do an ad for a buddy of mine.
Okay, sure.
Hey,
Sounds good.
Yeah. Guys, if you want a great cigar, I've got a great place. It's called Bell's House of Tobacco. Been going there for over 20 years. See John Bell. I've got all the information on the screen. Every time that I go in there, I get a great cigar. And probably after this podcast, I'll be going to Bell's to have a great cigar because that's what I do. I mean, I love cigars. So cigars, and it's one of those things that you can get a great conversation with a great person smoking a cigar. So go to Bell's House Tobacco and get a fine cigar. And make sure you tell him you saw me on this podcast so he knows I'm pumping him up. Okay? So thanks for that. Thank you for letting me do that. I'm a big cigar smoker.
That one time you called me, I saw you with the cigar. So yeah.
Oh, I love cigar. I mean, my wife kind of doesn't want me smoking cigars, but I'm like, hey,
you and Cersei.
Yeah. Oh,
Cersei's a big cigar guy. So,
how about this? So I'm down in Jacksonville, and I called you when I was down in Jacksonville.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm down in Jacksonville, and I go to this cigar bar, and I walk in. I'm trying to stay out of people's way, and this guy keeps looking at me, and I'm like, okay. And now he was looking at me like I'm short.
Right.
It was Cersei. It was Cersei. It was Cersei. He was like, what is John Jackson doing in this cigar bar?
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
so I'm like, I come back a couple hours later, and Cersei's still in there. And he goes, I was like, Cersei, I'm sorry. I really didn't look up because I'm like, I'm trying to get out of here.
Right.
And he goes, I saw you when you came in. I said, I didn't want to say that because I was like, what would he be doing in Jacksonville? And I'm like, dude, I had no clue it was you.
Right.
No clue. But we smoked a lot of good cigars when I was down in Jacksonville. Then you know who got me started on cigars was Jonathan Hayes.
Yeah, I can see that. Yes.
Remember when we had those team meetings? Those mandatory. Well, I used to tell people we used to have mandatory team meetings. So
right.
It was a way for us to come together. And if you had a difference, you know what? That would be the room to do it. And the defense would say something to the offense and vice versa. And that's how we got to be really close as far as a team.
Oh, no question.
Because, I mean, we had a couple drinks, but we had a cigar. And it was one of those things where, you kind of you were more respectful to the guy after you knew the guy a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something. When I got in a fight with Chad Brown, and they made him my roommate on the road. And made him my roommate. So they made him my roommate on a home game. And I'm like, I walk in and I go, you got to be freaking kidding me. And after that, me and Chad, we were cool.
Yeah.
We were cool. So
who was my roommate on the road? Monty Dawson a lot of times.
So you got a chance to watch him eat those double stuffed Oreo cookies, huh?
I had to bring him. We called it an offering.
Okay.
So we got to a point where we had to bring each other what we liked, and we had to kind of bow down to each other and give it to them. But what people don't understand is that Monty Dawson was one of the best centers I ever seen in my life. And I mean, it was an honor for me to be with him, but he was so cool. But I used to have to bring him cookies. Damani was a big cookie guy.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Every time we got on the road, man, I had to bring him cookies, man. We were both silly as hell. And so that's one of the things that we did.
But that's how you know somebody, and then when you go on the field, it's a little more serious. But you got just that much more respect for them. Hey, we're going to do a segment called First Down. This is your first. You remember your first game you started in the NFL?
Yes. San Francisco, regular season game, my second year. That was my first game. But, well, I mean, if you want to say preseason, I started the Jets game that year. And
No, see, but preseason doesn't count.
okay, well, the
Preseason
San
doesn't
Francisco
count.
49ers. Yeah, we played the 49ers. We ended up losing that game, but I actually individually had a really good game. I had like maybe 10 tackles or so. So, yeah, it was the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay, do you remember your first big hit in the NFL?
Yes, it was against the New Orleans Saints. We did what we call closed zero zone wide. We were bringing the strong side, the three technique in front of me would cross face to the A gap. The outside linebacker go inside, and a lot of times back in those days, the quarterbacks were still under center,
Right?
and they didn't pick up the blitz fast enough, and so I came off the middle clean. He didn't see me. Bam, fumble the ball. It was actually I think it wasn't my first sack, but it was the first big hit that I had. I cleaned that guy's clock. I think it was Wade Wilson, somebody like that.
Right. But so you were like, oh my goodness. It's like all of a sudden the Red Sea opened up.
It opened.
Like, this can't be like this.
Yeah. Because we were so innovative in the way we blitzed. So a lot of people were not quite savvy to it. And I'm telling you, Jack, it opened up so good because the tackle went out on the tight end went out for a pass. The tackle went out on the outside. Kevin, the guard and everybody went down on, I think it was either Ray or somebody, and they didn't have that running back to protect. And I went, and when I got past the line of scrimmage, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to kill him! I am going to kill him!" And that's what happened, man. It was funny.
No, the thing I liked about practicing with our defense is because we would pick up all that stuff. And then, so in a game, they would try some stuff. And it's one of those things where if you don't get it the first time, it's going to come again and again and again till you picked it up. And we always picked it up the second time because we were always look up at the screen and go, wait a minute, where did he come from? And I remember my first year when I was starting, and that was in '89. And all of a sudden, you look at our offensive line, and we're actually looking up at the jumbotron, trying to figure it out. Like, okay, where did he come from? And people would always ask me, it's like, hey, why are you guys looking up at the screen? I'm like, dude, we're trying to figure this out, like in a hurry. We're trying to figure this out in a hurry because we don't want to go back on that sideline and get our ass chewed out. It's like, okay, we got to figure it out. It's like, where'd the ghost come from?
Right.
And that's what we'd always call it. An extra guy who nobody saw was a ghost. Right. It's like, where'd the ghost come from? And it was just, it was always such a pleasure to play with. I played with a group of guys, and I played with Damani for 10 years because we came in the same year.
Right.
And we had probably the longest tenure there. My 10th year after I left, Damani played a couple more years there. I think 3 more, 13. But, I mean, did you know I was a 10th round pick?
No, I didn't know. I was like, this guy shouldn't have been a 10th round pick. I was like, man, this guy's way better than a lot of guys I know.
I was a 10th round pick. I was a 10th round pick, and we had a guy named Aaron Jones.
I remember Aaron Jones, yeah.
Aaron Jones, we both went to the same school. He was the 18th pick overall in the draft.
Right. Wow.
And my whole thing was, I'm going to make sure that I start longer than Aaron Jones.
Right. And you
start
did.
Longer and play longer. So, I mean, I did that, but I did a couple other things too. I mean, I ended up playing more games than anybody that went to Eastern Kentucky. So I played in 203 games.
Wow.
So that when I played in that, and I was the 171st person in the National Football League. Now imagine that, they're playing 200 games or more. And
that's amazing.
That's crazy.
That is amazing. Yeah.
So I played, and I'm in Cincinnati, and I'll never forget. I always remember. So I go in the game, and I'm playing special teams. So I go in the game. It's a field goal, and we're playing against Jacksonville, and I got 2 guys, and they never had 2 guys on this side. They weren't even trying to block it. But I'm thinking to myself, do they know this is my 200th game? Because the next thing I know, they both hit me square in the eye. And I'm thinking, oh shit. I mean, I came out with a bloody lip and everything. I mean, they literally beat the crap out of me. And I'm thinking,
Wow.
it was like, that's my 200th game. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is crazy. This is
Did you
crazy.
know that I played on the PA team, the PAT, that I was the one, the wing blockers? When
Mm-hmm.
I hated that job.
Oh,
I
I
hated
hate playing PAT. But they were
uh,
like, okay, John, just go on in. So they sometimes I would go in the guard. I hated that guard position
ugh,
because back in the day, and this is back in the day with Reggie White, Jerome Brown, and there was another Claude Claude Simmons.
Clyde
So
Simmons, yeah.
so imagine this. So they would put those three guys on the center, and I'll never forget. So we're playing a game, and I step down, and I look back, and they have taken the center all the way back to the place kicker.
Yeah.
I mean, they destroyed him. And every time the guy would come back to me, he goes, John, he goes, you gonna help me? I said, dude, I did help you. I
Yeah, I'm
step,
fine.
and that's all I got to do, just step.
Right.
Dude, it was crazy, and I felt bad for him. I never forget. That was a guy named Brian Blankenship,
Yeah.
and thank God they changed that rule because it was horrific what they
Oh,
did to
yeah.
him. I mean, one guy literally picked him up.
We can push you too. Like if you're on the defensive side,
Mm-hmm.
we can get behind a guy and actually push him. You can't do that anymore, but we could actually
No,
do that. We can
yeah,
push the guy. But I hated it. And I even asked Bill one time, like, why you got me on this PA team? He said, because you got too much pride. He was like, you, I know you're not gonna let you got too much pride. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right.
mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna. I wouldn't cost the team, but I hated playing that. But I played Hands team too, which was a lot of fun. Me and Chad used to go out there with Hands team, and he just like, oh my
Don't
god,
kick the ball to him. Please don't kick the
yeah,
ball to those guys.
don't kick the. But I was ready though. I was like, because I like one of the things I like doing. I like interceptions more than anything. Anything that I ever did on the football field, the thing, and I knew people knew me for stopping the run, but I love covering and I love making interceptions, man.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my thing.
No. So
Yeah.
so what are you doing right now?
Yeah. Well, I'm the VP. I'm the vice president of a nonprofit called the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And what we do is, you probably don't know this, Jack, but our students are ranked 43rd in the nation as far as college and career readiness. And that's a big issue in South Carolina. So basically, our students go out in the world basically not having the skills they need to go on into the workforce or really be prepared for college. We see that as a big problem. We decided that we wanted to do something about that. And we're now doing a campaign called Top 10 in 2030. So instead of being 43rd, we want to be in the top 10.
Right.
And what we're doing is we're bringing organizations together to make this happen. So instead of just creating another program, we try to highlight programs that are in your community that can help you as far as, life skills, studying, things of that nature. So we do that, and we do a podcast called the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland. And
Okay.
what we do is kind of like highlight some of the great players that have been in the state of South Carolina, or some of the coaches that have been affiliated with them. And we ask, we talk to them about leadership and about their story. And there's a movie coming out next week called Safety. And we just interviewed the guy that it was about him and his brother. I don't know if you remember this guy named Ray Ray. It's hard to say his last name, but he was a guy that, his mom was she was kind of a drug addict or whatever. He went to Clemson, and he was on scholarship. And that year, his brother was going to either going to go in foster care, or he's going to stay with his mother in a bad area in Las Vegas. So he kind of went and stopped it, and he basically like, well, I take him. that goes against every rule of the NCAA back in the day. You cannot
Right.
do that. So he just kind of like, I didn't want to see my brother go in foster care. So he took his brother, and during the summer, his brother was able to stay with him. But during the fall, there was a lot of, he couldn't really take care of his brother. So a lot of people at Clemson at the time, they kind of rallied around him. They felt like the NCAA was wrong. And so his story ends up being a major movie. So that's the kind of people that we try to get their stories to affect other folks. And we try to really get a commitment to the movement. And that means that we want everybody in South Carolina to commit to educating, empowering, and encouraging our students here. So, yeah, man, I found another calling after football, man. I really did. And it's also a good way. It's also a good way, John, to coach too, but it's just another way of coaching. It's not the X's and O's in football, but it's about life skills. It's about leadership. It's about taking responsibility, things of that nature. And the students we have here in South Carolina, they're not all like bad students, but there are a lot of students that do get left behind. And we feel like that 99% is something that we need to be able to help and, be a resource. We're trying to be what the NFLPA or the trust is to NFL players. We're trying to do that we're trying to help our students do that. And so we just, we ask for volunteers, sponsors, advertisers on our podcast. We have an award thing that we give to the best student athlete in South Carolina called the Bridge Builders Excellence Award. We live streamed that last year. We also have what we call a Hall of Fame dinner for our football guys. Right. So I do that. And then plus besides that podcast, I do 2 other podcasts. I'm in the midst of writing a book right now called Thank You. And it's just a collection of thank you letters. And I actually wrote one to the pit. You're actually in that. You're in that book. You're going to be in that book. And it's basically me thanking people. Like you give someone a thank you note. Mm-hmm. This is just going to be a collection of thank yous that, I think not only people, but I think different experiences. For example, I was in the Ring of Honor for Clemson. Right. And I wrote something to Death Valley about being a permanent part of Death Valley.
Yeah, I mean, so the 9th person, that's pretty good. The 9th person to be inducted in that Ring of Honor.
I know, man.
That's an awesome thing.
And dude, I barely got recruited at Clemson. I barely got recruited. I mean, I tell people all the time, I got, and maybe a lot of people back in our day, man, you just got discovered. Sometimes you got discovered. And I was basically discovered because there was no internet. There was no recruiting services at the time that I knew of. And my coach came to me and basically before the game that I got discovered, he was like, "Hey man, there's some recruiters out there." And they were not there to see me. They were there to see some other guy. Right. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I just had a great game. And the next thing you know, I got a letter from the University of South Carolina. And then Clemson must have got a whim of it. Mm-hmm. And they were like, let's send them a letter too. They had no idea who I was. But the guy, to Clemson's credit, the guy who recruited me from Clemson really recruited me pretty well. I mean, he would call all the time, and he was straight up. He was just like, listen, he said, I can't promise you anything, but, man, I think you're a heck of an athlete. And he's like, I really think you can play on our level. And he brought in my tape, and they watched it. And they were all at Clemson at that time, man, they were all about development. They didn't really care how big you were or anything like that. They just looked at, oh, he's an athlete. Okay, right. We can get him bigger and stronger. We'll put him somewhere. It wasn't whatever position you play, you might not have played at. Whatever position you played in high school, there wasn't a promise you're going to play at Clemson. So I was more of like a wide receiver, return punt guy in high school. What? And they would, believe it or not, John, I high jumped in high school. I had jumped over 6'4". I was a basketball player. I had I averaged like a double every from basketball because I was from a small school. You pretty much had to do everything.
Right.
So they just recruited me because they thought I was a real good athlete, and it worked out for me. But yeah, those are some of the things that I'm up to these days, man. Just really at this point in time, just really giving back,
Exactly.
And
so what's the organization called again? So we could
it's
put it under
South
your thing
Carolina.
and do a commercial. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've got a Kentucky Pro Football Hall of Fame as well.
Oh,
me
cool.
and Amani are in, and a bunch of guys like John Marshall. What's it? I mean, it's a boatload. If you've gone to like the same thing, South Carolina, if you've gone to any school there or grew up there, then you can be a part of it. We got a lot of people in there. But you'd be surprised from.
We feel like our Hall of Famers can really, make a difference and speak upon their experiences and speak to young people, and because everybody's not as fortunate sometimes, and sometimes you don't have that support system that you need. And if you can give people support system, and then plus you can educate them and empower them, it may not be an NFL career, but it could be a really good career.
Right.
And there's a lot of jobs out there now, man, and people don't know about it, that are paying like $60,000 just starting out.
Right.
So if you're a kid and you're not that great, and you're not maybe a great academic kid, or you may not be going to the NFL or college ball, there's options out there for you. And we're just trying to make people more aware of those options.
Right. No, that's great. Hey, dude, I appreciate you doing this for me.
Oh, man, anytime.
Let's keep in touch.
Let's do that.
We'll keep in touch.
Okay.
Hey, I want to thank Levon Kirkland.
You guys would have teased me so much.
We would have ripped you if we would have known that. I'm telling you. But I want to thank Levon. I want to thank Levon for being a guest, and that means a lot to me. All these guys come on, especially Levon. Great career, but even a better person. So make sure that you do subscribe to our podcast and hit that like button, but also make sure you hit that alert bell as well. We welcome comments and questions. So make sure you go to the offlinepodcast.com. And everybody, hey, we've got number 16 in the books. Waiting on number 17 coming up next. So everybody have a great day. And believe me, I will see you sooner than later.